says the new Dawn administration will not be held accountable for the lawlessness of its people.
Anyone who has built within 50 meters to vacate, and as government will not tolerate anyone building in an area, a waterlogged area. We had a similar problem in 2020 where water was overflowing over the tarmac, and we are asking all those who have built in the water area to leave right away. As government will not tolerate any structure, we'll have to demolish, because the 50 meters is supposed to be a breather for the river. And if you build the structure in the area of the water, you disrupt the flow, and this water disturbs houses.
Mildred Chompo, a concerned MUMBWA resident and the area ward councillor, have charged that despite several warnings given, the occupants did not vacate their houses and paid a deaf ear to the call.
Serious measure to force everyone to leave the lowlands, because they'll keep on asking for relief food and alternative measures after such a situation. Because these people, I don't know what I can say, because they were told to shift. Everyone was told to shift. They were even given alternative plots. That is 2 years ago. So now for this situation, this person just needs to find his own way out.
I'm not very happy with this situation, because we advised the owner of that house and we gave them the plots to shift from this area. It's a very dangerous area. As you can see, water is here, and very soon, despite of today we have seen it in the daylight, if it was night, we would have found someone to, no one was supposed to be found himself there. But unfortunately, this is a sudden issue where we have been advising our people not to build near the waterways.
Meanwhile, affected families talked to have learned a lesson they had read.
Kwa apamanje mwametingere na mteni wale nishizanka continue so chabe chasala apamanje shikumwalira chabe so apa lyamenerero kudakubwirira futi ngene kuchoka chabe.
So muzafuna kutandizo ili onse, or maybe since some of the things have been rescued, you are set to start renting a new apartment.
Muzafuna kutandizo ili onse
kunkani ya
mwakunkani ya kuti mkatokea hapa kwenda sakira kwina kaya hapa, so maunga onse angena umanzi marashachani vonse vomvimba angena umanzi kuliba apamenje tekera kuti nzaenda kukapa nyumba ya muntu.
Matias Chewe, Camnet News, MUMBWA.
The National Child Rights Forum, NCRF, a loose alliance of civil society that advocate for children's rights in Zambia, remains concerned with the number of child marriages being recorded despite having the laws in place. Addressing the media Tuesday, Media Network on Child Rights and Development Executive Director Henry Kabwe has noted that the Zambian law generally prohibits individuals under the age of 21 from marrying, but the law has not been fully actualized. Mr. Kabwe says failure to comply with the law has led to an estimated 1.7 million child brides in Zambia, a matter he describes as worrying. More in this report.
As the year draws to a close, a forum championing children's rights has commended government for passing into law the Children's Code Bill, describing it as a success in the enhancement of children's rights. Speaking at a briefing on behalf of the National Child Rights Forum, Florence Chilesha, who is also Lifeline Childline Zambia Executive Director, said the Children's Code Act is a progressive piece of legislation. If properly implemented, will address a wide range of concerns affecting children.
The forum applauds the government for making this great step and wish to employ it to not only end at ensuring that this law ends at enactment, as in the case of many other laws, but to ensure the implementation of this law is made reality to protect and develop and empower Zambian children.
A media network on child rights and development executive director Henry Kawe says Zambia has one of the highest rates of child marriages in the world, with approximately 31% of women between the ages of 20 and 24 being married off by the time they turned 18. Mr. Kawe says this robs children their right to enjoy their age.
Despite Zambia's high rates of child marriage, the practice has become less common in the past decade, with 29% of all young women aged 20 to 24 married before 18 years old and 5% before turning 15 in 2018, compared to 46 and 10% respectively in 1993. However, the progress recorded is not enough to eliminate child marriage by 2030 as set out in the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs. If the progress observed over the past 10 years continues, 22% of all girls in Zambia will still be married in childhood at the end of this decade. And even if the rate of progress is doubled, 16% of all girls will still be child brides in Zambia in 2030.
Meanwhile, Family Development Initiatives says there is need to ensure that infrastructure being put up is in conformity with children with disabilities.
And people that are differently abled need to be given special attention. I think we have seen that the reason why we call them differently abled is because just because you have some form of disability does not mean that you are less than people that are healthy. But what stops people that are differently abled from achieving is ensuring that the facilities that are made available, not only in accessing justice, but everywhere, take into consideration their plight. And so one of the things, and we might want to use this platform, is to advocate that not only courts, but all infrastructure actually takes into consideration access of people that are differently able.
Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The opposition leadership movement party says the reluctance by the United Party for National Development UPND to finalize legal procedures which will see the demolition of houses constructed at Forest Reserve number 27 will haunt it come 2026 general elections, as this will be perceived as a promise failed to actualize. In an interview, Leadership Movement National Coordinator Jairo Singoma notes that the ordinary citizens do not understand the bureaucracy involved in having the houses demolished, adding that they only expect to see the deed done. He has further warned politicians against making unrealistic promises to gain popularity without understanding the full procedures behind their promises. The Leadership Movement Party National Coordinator therefore notes that the current administration has a huge task of ensuring that this breakdown of information reaches the ordinary citizens.
We are reminding the Zambian people that it's not their end business now. Let's look at who are talking matters that are going to alleviate us. Because as we are talking, Zambians are suffering. Those with money, the Forest 27 right now, they have left it, but when they were coming, you remember Honorable Garin Kombo telling the Zambian people, no, the first day we are going to come, we are going to demolish. Do you know the reason? Those are beneficiaries. These MPs have been there for 20 plus years. They have shares in those properties in Forest 27. But our brothers and sisters in these other areas, like in particular the fresh one is Chingola, where they went full time breaking their homes down. Even up to today, they have never told the Zambian people. They were busy awarding these so-called no freedom fighters. Did they think of land of those people who were displaced there in Chingola, where they gave them surnames? They are squatters. They are sitting on these airstrips. Today, we want them to also think for those people so that they are given their inheritance, the land, the kind of. Even a councillor, we haven't been told that they have arrested that person, because those people were not mad people who could just go at a place on their own. They were given some documentation by the system. Now, why are they leaving those people who are the perpetrators? So we want this government
to honor the promises.
The Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, has received 100 dignity kits from the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, worth approximately 150,000 kwacha to aid women and girls in times of calamity. DMMU National Coordinator Dr. Gabriel Pollen said that the mandate of the unit was to respond to challenges raised by disasters, which also threaten the hygiene of special groups like women and children. Dr. Pollen stated that the country anticipated normal to above normal rainfall during the 2022-2023 rainy season, which may present flash floods in some areas which compromised the safety and protection of women and children. The national coordinator explained that in furthering the efforts being made by government to provide food and non-food items, the donation had come at the right time to aid women and girls who find themselves embarrassed and anxious due to their special needs when disaster strikes. Speaking at the same event, the UNFPA Deputy Country Representative to Zambia, Ms. Batula Abdi, said that the donation was primarily aimed to help women meet their immediate hygiene rights and protect sexual reproductive health.
So basically, we are appreciative of the donation that has come. This is a reflection of the quality of the donation, the micro response that comes with donation to dignify the people adversely affected by these disasters. I mean, we anticipate normal to above normal rainfall. We also anticipate flash floods in certain parts of the country and a higher risk, therefore, of displacement. And the adverse impact, disproportionate impact on women and young women and adolescents cannot be under-emphasized. So we really want to appreciate the donation on behalf of the government, on behalf of the people. And as you know, DMMU already is responding to almost 2 million people across the country that have suffered adverse weather effects across the country. And we are supporting and supplying food, non-food items. And this really comes in a timely manner, at least in supplementing some of the efforts that the government is putting in place.
For UNFPA, one of the ways that we support women and girls after a disaster, either man-made or natural, or in the case of pandemics, is making sure that we provide dignity kits. As the name suggests, it is to restore dignity. Things that we take for granted are not normally accessible when disasters strike. We know that in times of crisis, shelter, food is given a priority. But we know that when a disaster happens, whether it is man-made or natural, the period doesn't stop.
President Hakainde Hichilema has bragged that his administration has performed better in the year 2022, but that more could have been done. President Hichilema believes that the United Party for National Development, UPND, is on course towards addressing the high cost of living. Speaking when he addressed a press conference at State House Tuesday, President Hichilema says the suffering Zambians are going through is owing to the fact that the previous government damaged the economy. President Hichilema says running a country is not an event but a process, hence the government must put in place measures to turn around the economy in order to make life better for Zambians. Meanwhile, President Hakainde Hichilema says power utility ZESCO must be viable, hence the move towards cost-reflective tariffs in a phased approach. Here's a report.
Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema, Tuesday 20th December 2022, held his last press conference for the year 2022 to uphold his commitment towards transparency and accountability. President Hichilema acknowledges that the year 2022 has been a combination of success and challenges.
So we committed to your views, receiving them. We welcome them. But remember, with the 5-year mandate, I think in the first 1 year, we've done pretty well. You can angle your own assessment. But for me, seated here, it's not enough. What we've done is not enough. I'm the first one to say we could do more. And we'll work to do more with yourselves.
The president had a message for every sector. And on topical issues, especially in the energy sector, the head of state says power utility firm ZESCO needs to be commercially viable.
ZESCO has to move to be commercially viable. Minister of Energy is looking at me. The last changes to some of these figures was around 205. Honestly, 205. How many years ago? How do you expect a business to survive again? Your own business. How do you expect, leave ZESCO alone, how do you expect to continue delivering electricity to your customers if you don't make the commercial adjustments that are necessary? The key for us now is to make the adjustments over a period of time, since they were not made for, we believe, political reasons. But we know that we will have the last laugh, because then ZESCO will be able to deliver, should be able to deliver efficiently to its customers.
While Zambians may argue, the president also indicated that the country is on the right track towards addressing the high cost of living.
Cost of living, issues around addressing this vigorously. We understand, we are with you. We're committed to ameliorating the issues around the cost of living. But the important thing is to know, to gauge, are we on the right track or not? The answer is we are. How do I know? How do I argue to you, the citizens? I argue because one of the issues that was going to basically crystallize whether we like it or not was...
And the President Hichilema says next year will be about unlocking the domestic economy by addressing government bureaucracy.
The President himself will spend more than 50% of his time on unlocking blockers to development. Simple as license issues, simple as permits, they may look. Reform around energy, so we can quickly attend to some breaches around them.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
Meanwhile, President Hakainde Hichilema has emphasized that journalists in Zambia should never be arrested for doing their work. President Hichilema has since instructed Home Affairs Minister Jack Mwimbo to protect journalists from harassment.
Media have sent a message to the Minister of Home Affairs. Media and journalists should be free to conduct their professional work. I've sent a message loud and clear. No journalist should be arrested in the line of duty because they're acting as journalists. No. It's up to you, the media, to deliver factual information. It's up to you. If you break other laws, that's a different issue. But no one should get arrested because you are conducting your professional work in the line of duty, so others would say. You shouldn't be in harm's way when you are in the line of duty. It's as simple as that. So, that's my 2023 commitment to you.
And earlier in the day, President Hakainde Hichilema swore in 9 senior government officials, among them the Director of Public Prosecutions, who has been urged to accelerate the prosecution reforms. Gilbert Perry was sworn in as Director of Public Prosecution DPP, while Patrick Kangwa was also sworn in as Secretary to the Cabinet, and his deputy, Oliver Kalabo, was equally sworn in. Ministry of Sports and Arts Permanent Secretary Chamba Foma was also sworn in, and Mwangala Zalumis, who was also sworn in as chairperson at the Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ, and her deputy being Ali Simwenga, while McDonald Chipenzi has been sworn in as commissioner at ECZ. Meanwhile, Tobias Molimbika was sworn in as Zambia's ambassador to Japan. President Hichilema has called on the newly sworn-in senior government officials to always put the interests of the people first while executing their duties. Mr. Hichilema also urged the newly appointed permanent secretaries in the Ministry of Sports and Arts to ensure that he accelerates the arts industry in order to contribute to the economic development of the country. You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
A falcon, known for flying high speeds, unmistakably grace and flying incredible long distances. Falcon Express is equal to the task with your deliveries. Friendly and reliable, a company that cares for you, local and international coverage, company that empowers its customers on time, every time, all the time. Nationwide delivery.
Send your parcel through Falcon Express to Mongu, Kabwe, Ndola, Kapiri, Kitwe, Chingola, Chipata, Livingstone, Mazabuka, Kasama, Solwezi, Kalumbila, Chililabombwe, Luansha, Kalulushi. Get in touch with us on +260 971 130 766 and drop your parcels at Falcon Express. Falcon Express. Your parcels are safe with us.
Welcome back. We'll continue with our news. Government has appreciated the benefits of the African Risk Capacity Insurance in mitigating risks and disasters in the country. Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU National Coordinator Gabriel Pollen disclosed that the $5.3 United States sovereign insurance payout for drought insurance that Zambia received in June this year is already benefiting various districts affected by the impact of climate change. Dr. Pollen said the payout is benefiting 8 districts that were affected by prolonged dry spells in the 2021-2022 rain season, adding that government is also responding to 4 districts with emergency cash transfer and 36 other districts with humanitarian support. He said this in a speech read on his behalf by DMMU Assistant Director for Early Warning and Preparedness, Titus Ngandu, at the official opening of the African Risk Capacity Building Workshop for Media and Technical Working Groups in Chilanga. An African Risk Capacity Head of Government for East and Southern Africa, Kofi Konian, disclosed that the institution was established in 2012 by African Union member states to deal with the disasters experienced in the continent.
Taking up the African Risk Capacity Assurance is a testament that government is moving away from reacting to disasters to anticipating risks, which has proven to be more effective, less expensive, and effective in terms of protecting our people's lives, their livelihoods, their properties, and also the environment. It is important to know that government, through the use of anticipatory actions, is able to provide mechanisms to predict shocks such as droughts and floods, among others.
AG was created with the mandate to really build the capacity of our member states to better plan, prepare, and strengthen the response system to be well equipped to respond to the disaster part of the disaster that affects the continent. With this mandate in mind, dear colleagues, that's why we are committed to build the capacity of our government stakeholders around risk modeling, around companies funding, around risk transfer, and also we are committed to really work hard with you on our cross-cutting initiatives such as gender communications. So if we are meeting today with our media stakeholders because we believe in the importance of role that they can play for us to build disaster risk culture across the continent.
Former Minister of Agriculture under the Michael Sata-led Patriotic Front administration, Robert Sichinga, has predicted a high cost of living in 2023 due to the delayed delivery of farming inputs. Speaking during the National Matters program on Camnet TV, Mr. Sichinga says this could have been caused by the delay in selecting suppliers by the current administration due to changes resulting in the current situation. He adds that some places, especially those in far-flung areas, will be harder to reach due to the poor road network worsened by the rainy season.
For us to appreciate that food, as you've said, is a necessity. It's an absolute necessity. There's no way you can sustain life without food. All right. And in this particular case, my view was that we also needed to digress. We needed to diversify our base away from just maize. We needed to get sorghum. We needed to get millet. We needed to get sweet potatoes. But also there are other places, of course. If you take places like Western Province, for instance, Litapi, we take Luapula, for example, it is our bream that we need to have. So there are these other food commodities, bananas, pineapples in Northwestern, and so on and so forth. We have to have those. We have just to have those foods available to the people. Now, I couldn't do it between April and December. It was not possible to do all these things. So I needed to focus on those things that were priority. And by the way, we managed to get that fertilizer, which we were buying locally at $1,079. We managed to get it from Saudi Arabia at $388 per metric ton. And I've got the figures right here with me. It's just that the cameras might not be able to pick it. But we bought it at $388 per metric ton, which we had been buying at $1,079, meaning we were buying it at 2.5 times the price which we bought from Saudi Arabia. All right. Now, that enabled me to liquidate all the other payments to the farmers, to the transporters, to the seed suppliers. So I am asking myself, what could have happened? What could have caused the minister not to, and the ministry, should I say, and the minister to have not been able to get this thing on a timely basis? Okay. There are usually pressures because there are these cartels that they always want to have all the orders for the fertilizers and so on and so forth.
The Federation of Small-Scale Miners has urged government through the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development to rescind its decision to revoke licenses of small-scale miners for failing to pay area charges. Speaking to Camnet News, Federation Chairperson Joseph Mwansa has instead appealed for an extension period of 4 to 5 months, noting that small-scale miners were negatively affected by the coronavirus pandemic. He adds that all small-scale miners, not only in Zambia but around the world, are passing through similar challenges. Mr. Mwansa says failure to reconsider will lead to an increase in hunger, as many people will lose their source of income.
France and Morocco announced on Friday the re-establishment of full diplomatic relations.
This is Camnet Television News. We take a second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
In our quest to serve nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
A falcon, known for flying high speeds, unmistakably grace and flying incredible long distances. Falcon Express is equal to the task with your deliveries. Friendly and reliable, a company that cares for you, local and international coverage, company that empowers its customers on time, every time, all the time. Nationwide delivery.
Send your parcel through Falcon Express to Mongu, KUWAIT, Ndola, Kapiri, Kitwe, Chingola, Chipata, Livingstone, Mazabuka, Kasama, Solwezi, Kalumbila, Chililabombwe, Luansha, Kalulushi. Get in touch with us on +260 971 130 766 and drop your parcels at Falcon Express. Falcon Express. Your parcels are safe with us.
Now, in international news, the Electoral Authority in Tunisia officially announced on Monday a turnout of 11.22% in Saturday's parliamentary elections, very slightly up from the preliminary figure of 8.8% made public after the closure of the polls. The final turnout was announced by the president of the Electoral Authority, IC Farouk Boussaka, at a press conference in Tunis. Even revised upwards, this turnout is the lowest since the revolution that toppled the dictatorship in 2011, after records nearly 70% in the October 2014 legislative, and is 3 times less than for the referendum on the constitution last summer, which was 30.5%, already marked by high abstention. According to Boussaka, 1.025 million people out of just over 9 million registered voters cast their ballots. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
The Electoral Authority in Tunisia has announced a turnout of 11.22% in Saturday's parliamentary elections, very slightly up from the preliminary figure of 8.8% made public after the closure of the polls. The final turnout was announced by the president of the electoral body, Issy Farouk Bouaske, at a press conference in Tunis on Monday. The Independent Higher Instance for Elections, ISIE, recorded, after the counting of all votes, 1,025,418 voters on all polling stations for a participation rate of 11.22%. The new parliament will not be able to dismiss the president, and it will be almost impossible for it to censure the government. It will take 10 MPs to propose a law, and the president will have priority in getting his laws passed. Authorities in Rwanda have welcomed the British courts giving the green light to the deportation of migrants who have arrived illegally in the United Kingdom to the Central African country. The Rwandan government called the ruling a positive step towards solving the global migration crisis. This is a very satisfying decision because we can find new solutions, new ways of doing things, because today we have always hidden ourselves from international conventions, international law to keep the status quo. But today we will evolve and implement distinct solutions, such as trying to solve this deadly migration problem. After hosting student survivors of the 1994 genocide for nearly 3 decades, the Hope Hostel is one of the major accommodations that will be the first home for the deported migrants. There are Rwandans working, there are Rwandans who study, there are Rwandans who have businesses, there are migrants who study here. There are refugees who have been living here for 10, 15 to 20 years. There are over 100,000 refugees. Why not use this experiment to solve this problem? So Rwanda is ready to try new ways of doing things. Judges in London on Monday ruled that the UK's government's controversial plan was lawful after a legal challenge by migrants and campaigners. In July, trade unions in the UK held demonstrations in a Stop Rwanda campaign to protest the move.
With a flotation device and extensive training, you can spend roughly 48 hours in the sea before conditions overpower you.
Life jacket, life buoy, and their floating devices allow us 48 hours to save their life. So tomorrow will be the highlight. We'll try to do as much as we can to save them.
The HTMS Sukhothai corvette sank on Sunday. It's now emerged that there weren't enough flotation devices on board for the amount of sailors the ship was carrying. An extra 30 personnel were on board as part of the operation it was on. For those who did manage to survive, the ordeal has been horrific.
We found this guy holding a life buoy, so we rescued him. He was floating in the water for 10 hours. He is still conscious, so we could take him out of the water safely.
Tragedy struck Sunday night as strong winds blew seawater onto the deck and knocked out the ship's electricity. The loss of power allowed more seawater to flow into the vessel, overpowering it and eventually sinking it. The authorities sprung into action, dispatching 3 frigates and 2 helicopters as part of the rescue efforts. That 48-hour window is closing, and after that, rescue efforts will turn into recovery operations as brutal sea conditions could overpower those left in the water.
Let's have some sports news now. In our sports news tonight, the Kuwait-bound local assemblage Zambia national team has stepped up preparations for the December 25 friendly with a morning session at Edwin Imboela Stadium. Under the watchful eye of Oswald Mutapa, Mwenya Chipepo, Tenant Chembo, 2012 AFCON winners Christopher Katongo and Kalililo Kakonje. The lads put together their pieces to prepare for the locally assembled squad ahead of the international fixture. Mutapa says it is important to have such friendlies, especially for local players, having in mind that they have to compete with senior players and other professionals. To end Camnet television news, the headlines once again. President Hakainde Hichilema brags of delivering development amid complaints on the high cost of living. MUMBWA residents abandoned their homes due to floods. Former Agriculture Minister urges Zambians to brace for tough times in 2023. In international news, low turnout recorded in first legislative vote since parliament dissolution in Tunisia. And in sports news, local guns intensify preps for Kuwait assignment. Our Camnet verse of the day is coming from Luke chapter 2, verse 1, 5 to 4. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. So Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because it belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. Thank you once again for watching Camnet Television News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.